let's get right into what happened over the weekend. Now, again, Laura Fryer, if you don't know who she is, she was an executive and a big part of the co-development of the original Xbox that launched in 2001. She was also a big part of the Xbox 360, and she helped produce several games before leaving for WB Games, and eventually, I believe, Epic Games is where she ended up. I don't know if she's still there. I didn't look too much into it, but I know that she's had a storied history in gaming. She is no stranger to how to make games, how to make hardware, how to sell hardware, and the idea of, community and consoles. But again, she dropped a video that I think really, what it did is it ignited the conversation of what Xbox is doing now and in the future. I personally think it's already been explained enough times for me, and I'm not being a suck ass or anything. I'm just saying that Sarah Bond literally has come out and did a video talking about the partnership with AMD and what that's going to do for the next generation consoles with an S. Now, what those consoles are, one is definitely under a box under your TV. The other one is still the one that we're not sure. Is it a traditional handheld like the ROG Ally Xbox, the Xbox Ally? I don't know. Is it the rumored, dockable, type of console that could be the S version of next generation for Xbox? Well, we don't know, but we do know that they have consoles coming out. We also had the head of AMD, I don't know, come out and say and talk about the partnership, the strategic partnership of building the next Xbox consoles. So with all of that information, Jamie Moran, why is the press, why are some of we know why the trolls do it, but even some people that you would think they wouldn't, act like trolls, right? They wouldn't have this disingenuous behavior. We've seen some really, really poor takes. And one of which, and again, Laura is someone that understands how to ship a console. Even though she has not been there in 10 years, decade plus, I think with her intelligence, she could easily understand why Xbox is doing what they're doing. And the simple answer is they're in third place. And their traditional way of selling consoles failed. So they needed to react and do something different and not just keep hitting your head against a wall. Listen, this is the reality it is. But there were two specific points that I totally disagreed with during the Laura Fryer video. One of which was, who is the ROG Xbox Ally for? And that person you're looking at is me, because it's a traditional handheld console, but it offers the best of both worlds, in my opinion. You're getting Steam and Epic Game Store and Good Old Games access. You're also getting a boot up screen that looks and acts like an Xbox that I have right here under my TV. That is what that's who this is for. And the other thing that this is where I draw the pushback, or I give the pushback, so to speak, is the Xbox hardware is dead when we know that it's not. Why say that? She's aware of what they're doing. It's out in the ether. Everyone knows, Jamie Moran, that they're making next generation hardware. So those are my pushbacks. And I think what's worse is seeing people actually run with this. Like, oh, look, see, she said no hardware. Well, the last time I checked, she didn't work for Microsoft in over a decade. I mean, yes, this is her opinion. Yes, she's a super smart woman. Yes, she's in the business, but she's wrong. Let's get your thoughts, man.
I'll get the ROG thing out quick because I've got a lot to say. So I over the past week, 2 weeks, I've heard a million times like, "Who's this ROG Xbox Ally for? It can't play games natively." But what's the PS Portal for? It can't play games natively. Nobody bats an eye. In fact, it can't play any game natively. It's a what? It's a basically an Android tablet with controls slapped on the side, which you have to be connected to the internet to play games on. So what? Why aren't people asking the same question for that? Because to play games via streaming, you can just play things on your phone and use your current controller. So why would you fork out £200 for this extra device that you technically do not need? Nobody's asking that question. This ROG, it's a PC handheld. It has Xbox features, and people are just stumped. Like, you put an Xbox button on a device, and everyone's wondering, what the hell's this? It's blown my mind, because like, I've never seen so much pushback on anything like this, right? And I wasn't going to say this during the show, Boom, but I will say it anyway. It goes back to the whole DRM thing, right?
Yep.
Microsoft announced their console in 2013. There was this huge blowback on their console because of DRM. And granted, the way they announced it, people didn't know. Was it a 12-hour check-in, 24-hour check-in? But do you know what happened that November? The console the console that actually released, didn't have DRM, right? But for years and years, and we were all there, people pushed back on it, saying, "Oh, it's a DRM console." And Nintendo, just a couple of months ago, announced that their console is going to have these things called game keys, right? Literal DRM cartridges. And the console came out like a month ago or whatever, and DRM all over the place, and nobody bats an eye. They got away with this. They got away with DRM linked to cartridges, right? Microsoft console launch in 2013 didn't have DRM, and they had pushback for an entire generation, to the point where people today still say, "Oh, Xbox DRM 2013." Right? It's mind blowing. Like, I don't know why people just want to complain all the time. Like, the ROG is a PC. It has Xbox like features. I don't understand why people seem confused by this. And I've seen people say, like, why would you get this if you're an Xbox consumer? It's like, well, what if you play a lot of first party Xbox games? What if you want to play streaming and you happen to play Xbox PC games anyway? So it's like, and as I've said before, it's not for everyone. An ROG Ally in general isn't for everyone, and people just seem confused. And I like I said before the show started, I think we're at a point where we had the summer showcase. Xbox had a really good time, a lot of cool games there, and people are just looking for things to complain about, because gamers for some reason need to latch on to something to complain about. They can't celebrate the games. They can't just talk about the games that's out right now. Everything has to be complaining over and over and over again about crap we already know about. Is Xbox going to, like, literally, Sarah Bond was in a video last week telling us they are working on next gen consoles, plural. And then a week later, people are like, but are we really going to get next gen consoles? Like, I'm absolutely stumped. Like, how many times? And Stein on Twitter literally had to post last night and highlighted the word consoles, plural, in the press release. How many times do we need to be told that there's more hardware coming? Hell, at this point, we could literally see a video of a dude in a factory making a next gen Xbox, and people will still question whether it's happening or not. It's happening time and time again. And do you know what? Do you know what's funny? Nobody's asking PlayStation this stuff, right? Where's their roadmap, right? They talked about the PlayStation 6, but there's no games to play on it. I'm joking. There's 1 or 2 games in the works, but like, nobody's asking these questions. Hell, Marathon got delayed a couple of weeks ago, but a game I was actually looking forward to.
You didn't hear a peep, brother.
Yeah,
not a singular peep.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff Keighley forgot to post about that as well, I believe. Like, nobody's asking these important questions. How many times do we need to hear, okay, the Xbox is coming? Like, and I hate saying this. I say time and time again, why, like, these consoles cost billions and billions to make, right? And why would Microsoft invest billions in new hardware, new console generation, just to pull the plug? And the only thing people can come up with on Twitter is that, but Phil Spencer said in the past 4 games, right? It's hardly the same thing, is it? Right? Microsoft is, quote unquote, money hungry. So why would they invest billions into devices when they have no intention of supporting them? I know I'm all over the place today, but I'm just really annoyed.
No, it's fine, brother. It's a conversational podcast. Please, by all means, go crazy.
We literally had a really good showcase, right? Two games people have been wanting to come over to Xbox for a long time, with Final Fantasy VII Remake and 16. Finally get announced to come to Xbox. They had a good lineup. This year is absolutely stacked for video games, and people continuing to question whether next-gen hardware is actually going to be a thing. Why? We've been told time and time again. How many more times do we need to hear it? Right? And that video by Sarah Bond last week, when did that video come out? It came out a day after, on 1 or 2 days after, the people in the community start questioning, is Xbox leaving the console business? This topic is coming up every week, every single week, right? The ROG Ally Xbox. Oh, this is just going to be what Microsoft does from now on, even though they bloody confirmed that they're working with AMD on first-party hardware. Is anybody else sick and tired of this? Every bloody week, we're hearing the same thing over and over again. We aren't talking about the really cool releases coming up. We aren't talking about, hey, why is PlayStation why do they don't have a roadmap? Why can't we just talk about the games that Xbox is coming out with right now? No. We have to always talk about, because the clickbaiters, and I will mention these people if I have to. I don't like mentioning names, but I will. Like, people pulling these cringe face, thumbnails saying Xbox is dead again for the 1,000th time. I've been an Xbox fan since day one, right? 20 plus years. And 25 years now. How many times have we heard over that time, Xbox is dead, right? I remember back in the OG days, right? I remember back then, we were hearing, that was going to be the only Xbox they did. And what did they do? They come out with the 360, right? Time and time again, the Xbox One. Remember in 2011, 2012, people were getting really tired of that generation, wanting new hardware. And there was rumors that there wasn't going to be another Xbox. Like, and the funny thing is, all the people that come out with this crap, these are the same people that were complaining about Microsoft buying Activision because they were going to have a monopoly, right? But they so want Microsoft to get out the console business.
They do. They absolutely do.
And it's blatantly obvious. We can all see it, right? And it's like, one, why aren't these people, and I saw it in chat, why aren't these people talking about Death Stranding 2? Right? Why aren't we talking about, the huge slate of games coming? It's always about Xbox leaving the hardware business, because it's always brought up. And like, having people from Xbox's past bring up, and by the way, these people that used to work for Microsoft, they always come off as bitter exes.
Yes, they really do.
Like, extremely bitter exes. They had a really bad breakup. It was public in a pub, right? Everyone saw it happen. And people were like really crazy about it for years. This is what they act like. And people just run with this. Like, and as I posted last night, you have 3 options. Do you either listen to people that haven't worked at Xbox in years, listen to people that always talk about Xbox but don't care about Xbox, or people that work at Xbox telling us they are making next-gen consoles? And people just don't want to listen to that third option, the bloody obvious option. It's tiring. I feel like I'm aging quicker every time this topic pops up, because I have to come out and say the same crap. I have to be the voice of reason. I don't want to be the voice of reason. Like, every bloody time. I'm sick and tired of it. Now, I'm excited for gaming. Don't get me wrong. I've even said, like, the ROG Xbox Ally, it's not for me. And when Xbox does a native first party handheld, then we'll talk. But that's the beauty of it. Not all these devices have to be for everyone. It's like that for anything, right? The Xbox Series S, it's a great console, but it's not for me. And as people can tell, I'm probably annoyed. It doesn't help that it's a billion degrees and I'm melting here. But I think we all getting sick and tired of this thing being brought up. People, and by the way, Mikey Barra, I honestly don't understand why he's so bitter. Yes, he technically got fired from Microsoft twice. Oof. But my God, like I've never seen anyone so bitter about Microsoft. Like someone that apparently loved Xbox, they loved being part of the community, and they want to do everything in their power to just get rid of it. Like, come on, it's just tiring at this point.
No, I mean, you bring up great points, and you mentioned Mike Ybarra, so let me bring up some of the things that he said, so we can have some fun with what Infinite Umbra is going to say regarding the whole situation. Now, granted, we still have to hear from Umbra regarding what Laura Fryer had to say in her video, but again, this is two former executives that worked at Xbox at one point or another, one of which worked multiple times for Microsoft because of acquisitions and things. He's no longer with the company. That is, of course, Mike Ybarra, and of course, no ill will towards Mike. I mean, I've talked with him in DMs. He was on my show once, many years ago. But I gotta be honest with you. Some of his statements that follow this video are wow. They're pretty head scratching. So he goes on to say, and of course, I have a bullet point so we don't spend too much time on me reading everything he had to say. I have a few. He says it's tough to see Xbox confused about who it is and what they should be. Xbox should pick your lane and stick to it instead of trying to be the jack of all trades. He goes on to say in two other things here, Xbox should strive to be the world's largest publisher of entertainment content, focusing on publishing games across multiple platforms. And lastly, from what I see, they're no longer that, implying Xbox is no longer solely a console manufacturer. Well, yeah, no kidding. He's an executive. He worked for Xbox. He worked for Blizzard. He was the president of Blizzard Entertainment. He understands the business. This is why these statements and this whole thing come off as disingenuous, folks. Again, no one's attacking these people for having opinions, but to be quite fair, Umbra, they are smart executives who understand the business. And if a boob like me can understand the dollars and cents of what's going on and why Xbox took the path that they're currently on, they gotta know, right, Umbra? They have to know that they were in third place. They failed at selling this generation's hardware. They have no choice but to put games on other places. Why? Well, one of the main reasons I would imagine is to keep Game Pass sustainable, and it is, right? They're according to numerous documents, they are it's been said, it's not confirmed yet, but because we have to end the year, but they are projected to have made $5 billion with Xbox Game Pass this year. And this is a company that spends and invests $1 billion into getting games into the service. So if you make a $4 billion profit on your streaming service, I think you're doing okay. Let's get your thoughts on, bro.
It's something to be said. I think Jamie hit it all on the head, and I know the chat is going wild on it too. I saw one comment about being first place and whining about third place winner or whatever, or person that placed in the race, and that's absolutely correct. But I want to say, like with Ybarra, for instance, and no shade to him, but at this point, you have to know the man is salty at Xbox, right? I think you have to know that salty at Microsoft, should I say?
Yeah, of course.
Like every comment he's made has been kind of a little side, a little side jab, and he dresses it up a little nicely, like, oh well, you could be this, you stay in your lane. It's always a little subtle jab, I think, that kind of tips his head. You know what I mean? And my thing is, listen, if you feel bitter about whatever, because we don't know all the ins and outs in the business and the things that happen behind the scenes, maybe he's validated to have that feeling, right? But you can tell that's where it's from. And the reason why I can tell it where it's from, aside from him always coming out when there is doom talk, is that he doesn't ever have any of this when it's anybody else. He's never having any of these, written replies when Sony is dry and has no games and no plans for, or they've had to sell off or at least not sell off, but close down these studios and things. It's always Xbox. And maybe that's because he worked directly for Microsoft, to be fair. But I think it feels a little disingenuous. Whatever the case, my thing is this. I take with a large grain of salt because he's been doing it for so long that I'm already kind of like, I don't expect you to say anything too well for them. Now, Laura's a bit of a different monster, right? She was one of the founding, members of the Xbox team with the, she has a lot under her belt. Not to say that he doesn't, but she has a lot under her belt from different games she worked on with, and even the development of XNA and things like that, which is now defunct. But I think that a lot of this comes from, have you all ever heard somebody like an older person, typically like an older dude, talk about things in the past and how now things have changed, so now they must fail, or it's not good anymore, or back in my day, right? The old classic, right? And that's what she comes off like, back in my day. And I don't know if any of this is tinged to draw people to her channel. I don't know that. I don't want to try to disparage her, but I feel like when you say certain comments, it comes off as clickbaity just a bit. When she says, for instance, that she believes Xbox hardware is dead and that they're slowly exiting the hardware business. Well, to be fair, I think many of us have come to the conclusion, at least I've said this before, that the next gen Xbox may be its last one specifically from Microsoft, right? And maybe they'll go another way with the OEMs and have hardware made by other developers or other, makers, if you will. So yeah. I think that's somewhat fair when if you framing it off of the thought of maybe after next gen, but she's saying it's dead in general. She says, hey, Xbox hardware is dead. There is no next gen. Essentially, that's what she was saying. That's coming, and in that I disagree, and we have great reason to know and to disagree. And I mean, very clearly, when you have, what is Sarah Bond's position? I forget. What is her position right now?
She would be the president of Xbox, sir.
You have the president of Xbox. It came out in a video talking of the partnership with her, them and AMD.
And didn't the head of AMD follow that?
They did.
Up with a
shout out to Lisa Su. Absolutely, she did. Or as Paris would call her, Lisa Wu. But Sarah Bond came out and said that it was a strategic multi-year partnership, right? And that's for next generation consoles, handhelds, and accessories. So it's actively in development. I don't understand how you could hear that or read that, because there's a transcript for it too, I believe on Xbox Wire, and then be like, oh, that's not that means it's over with. Like, how did you see that? I don't know how anyone saw that and didn't connect the dots.
Exactly. Yes.
Personally, to me, that just confirmed at the very least we would have at least one more generation directly from Microsoft themselves, at the very least. And it says next generation consoles, right? So that speaks to multiple handhelds and accessories, things of that nature. So I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm speaking of this and largely, and I say this with respect, from somebody who has gravitated more to PC simply because I wanted the best performance, period. I didn't want to miss out on anything. I want the best performance. Well, I wouldn't miss out on anything. I got everything, so I wouldn't miss out anyway. Mostly performance. That was it for me. I wanted to be able to play the games at their best, at all the frames per second and all that good stuff, right? And I did it just before Hellblade 2. And was I glad that I did, because it looked magnificent and played magnificently on this PC here. And that's not to shade the Xbox, because I played it on there too and it did well. So that was my reasoning. So I'm saying all of this to point out, like, I believe in what Microsoft is crafting here going forward. And I think everybody, honestly, if you're an Xbox gamer, even if you're not an Xbox gamer, I think this should be something that you should be potentially excited about, with them bringing all these different storefronts to the next gen. I just think it's really cool. So one of her views too was that since they're moving to this ROG Xbox Allies, that it's a slow exit, I believe was her words. Am I correct? A slow exit from hardware. My thing is that them moving on and leaving or abandoning the Xbox, or them making a strategic move or strategic pivot to be to have their hardware options everywhere, and that seems to be the case for them. I mean, the whole "this is an Xbox" advert is the basis of them you being able to play your Xbox games on anything. So why then does that come to this is an exit versus this is a strategic move or pivot and different marketing choice to bring at least to bring the ecosystem to more places. That's the thing I get from it. So not only will we have obviously the Xbox branded Asus, right? You'll likely have that with, Alienware or something like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you'll have all these other different things, Samsung, so I feel like, I think it's short-sighted to be like, oh, it's just an exit. Again, it could be. I just feel like it's a little too dismissive considering everything they got their hands in with how they're moving.
Well, it's dismissive in a way that's disingenuous because she understands the business. And even though she hasn't been there in a decade plus, I mean, it's out there what they're doing. And more specifically, Umbra, why they're doing it. This isn't a surprise. This isn't just, they didn't just pull the blanket over your head like, a surprise, we're doing this. This has been they've enacted this for years.
Yeah, they have. And I mean, like the whole trend of the whole thing about Microsoft has been for a long time now about you being able to have your ecosystem, their ecosystem, wherever you're at, right? Wherever you go. And I mean, to be fair, I'll say this as a caveat. Of course, for those who would say, well, I don't have my library over here. That's the hill they have to climb to get over, right? That much is true. If you can't access your library, for sure, I understand 100% if you're saying it's not really an Xbox if I don't have my games. Fair. Not arguing that. That's what they're going to, though, right? That's where they're going. That's where they're headed. Yes. Might not be there just yet, but that's where they're headed. So once that happens, what's the argument then? Well, it's not made by Microsoft, though.
That's exactly what they're going to say. They're going to go, well, it's not really an Xbox because and some of the really weirdest things, the weird energy stuff that I've heard is it's not a console.
Skytech made it, though. I don't care. Yeah. Can I play everything there and access my Xbox library and everything? I'm good to go. Don't care. And I think anyone fixating on that is going off some traditional nonsense in their head, and they haven't evolved and moved past that either. I don't care. To me, I think that a lot of the times when we get into these debates, it's because of, and Laura falls into this, Miss Fryer here, she falls into that. It's an argument off of traditional settings when Microsoft is like in the year 3000 already. It's like that's not what they're doing. They're not doing traditional stuff anymore. They've moved past that. They made a different change. They want flexibility. That's why they have the handheld, or at least with Asus, a partnership. They want that flexibility. They want to be able to be like a Steam Deck, or you know what I mean, or a Switch, where you can have access to it even on the go. That's the smart move. Hell, we already hear rumors of PlayStation having a handheld, right? Or it may be confirmed, but so we know that's what's happening. So I don't understand the thought of, well, if they're going to this, that means that's the exit. Again, even if that's your argument, and it does happen to be that way, and third-party OEMs make the shell that will be the Xbox, and you'll get various forms of that shell for performances. I don't understand how that is even a bad thing. Because the only argument is, well, it's not made by Microsoft. I don't care. And I think those who are wondering this way, or at least those who are maybe being pulled in the direction of people who argue that way, need to not care either. I don't think it matters. I wouldn't care as so long as it works right. And if I have any issues with it, they're going to fix it. That's it. And, so long as I can access my entire library, and I can play my Xbox games on it and PC games, of course, from Epic and GOG and everything, I couldn't give a damn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't understand the argument. Well, they might but it'll be OEM. Okay, so going back to that too, she made something about, I think it was about them moving away from hardware because of the $80 price tag for like the Outer Worlds too. I had this discussion with Kay and the fellas on Discord, on the GCP Discord the other day. One of the things I said, and this is off topic slightly, you all remember when Pete Hines was saying some stuff and everybody got on his head top when he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, PlayStation gamers," and all that. It was like, what you apologize? What you
ridiculous?
Why are you apologizing? Remember that, right? And all of us got that way because it's like you're talking out of turn. For one, if they made this purchase, you should have conferred with them. You don't need to go out there making these statements to PlayStation gamers. And so this situation with the Outer Worlds too, just as an aside, you had, I believe, Obsidian, that came out and spoke on it and was like, we didn't pick the price. I would have been on their head top too. Why are you talking to the press and telling them anything? We didn't pick the price. Okay. So what? Shut up. That's not for you to go out there and do. Just as an aside. But the bigger point out to make on that is an $80 price tag is not only them going with the trends of other platform holders, such as Nintendo, obviously, who said it first, but Microsoft seems to get the shade because I still don't understand how anyone can argue Mario Kart World is worth $80. I'm sorry. I've played it. I got it.
Great game, but not $80.
Not that damn great.
It's just not.
And I don't think any game is that great personally, but that said, so they're doing it. Sony is obviously going to follow. They're not going to stay at 70. Anybody is saying that they will are delusional. They're going to go to that, and then you probably going to have Rockstar go to 100, as has been theorized many times for Grand Theft Auto 6, right? So one of the things about the $80 price tag is that, this is evidence of pushing people towards subscriptions. Well, duh. Of course, that's what they're doing. Everything they did with this onslaught of games they've given us this year is to say, hey, you can get all these goodies right here if you just subscribe to Game Pass. Everything they've been doing is to push you to subscription. So, of course,
you know what? Can I add some context to what you're talking about? Because you started making this bridge, and I want to help you finish it. Because here's the thing. If they moved to $80, and they weren't first to do it. First, it was Nintendo of all freaking publishers to do it. It's shocking, but Nintendo did it. Will EA get there? Yes. Will Take-Two get there? Yes. Will PlayStation? Freaking absolutely. That's not even a second thought. Everyone is going to go to $80 at some point. I'm sure there'll be no smoke for anybody. They'll be like, well, Nintendo, they're Nintendoing, but Xbox, damn to hell, right? But here's an interesting theory that kind of catapults what you're saying about, well, if the games are 80, we, Xbox, have a service where you can get the 80 or potentially $100+ version for the cost of your subscription. And if you want to buy the upgrade, it's $27. So for $27 and your $20 a month, you're getting all of these games, and you'll be able to play them everywhere and anywhere. And this is where the next generation handhelds, consoles, and OEM handhelds come into play, because now you'll be able to take these games, because they're play anywhere, literally play anywhere. And then the question arises, well, if I can play everything on Xbox, including PlayStation games, do I need my PS5? Do I need a PS6? And that's the road that they're working towards.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the box that's in the living room. It's a box anywhere. And oh, by the way, it plays everything, not just Xbox games.
It's
not
one box
just
to rule them all. Yeah.
There you go. So
And
that's the right. And again, I'm just a podcaster. I'm sure a lot of these folks who have PhDs, who have these degrees in public science or political science or even gaming science understand this, Umbra. So if I can get it, I'm sure they got it as well.
Yeah, and I'm not going to doubt the people, the pushers behind the scenes, the pin pushers or whatever they call them, right? Like, I know that they're smarter than me when it comes to this situation. Not to say that they're infallible, but going back, okay, so just to highlight, Keith made a great point. He says that I don't think it's just about subscriptions. Nintendo and PlayStation are also doing it. They also want to get that price point. Absolutely. But I don't think that's the major point for Microsoft. I think they want you to subscribe for one. But if they can get you just to pay your $80 and keep it moving, sure, they'll take that. That's an added incentive. That's not their first goal. I think their first goal is to get you added as a sub to keep you in the ecosystem, to keep you buying. The more you're in there, you're going to keep, paying for Game Pass. You're going to buy things in the ecosystem, microtransactions, et cetera, et cetera. It's just more lucrative for them overall over time. I mean, look at me. I'm on PC now, and I'm still subscribed to Game Pass because it got that much of a lock on me, and I ain't going nowhere. You feel what I'm saying? So subscription is their biggest goal. Not to say that selling the games aren't also part of the strategy, Keith. So you're right too. But and I'll say this: I do want to. I know I've been chatting for.
No, listen. This is a good. I love the conversation we're having. It's why we're here.
Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, one of her things with the price point, in that's evidence of them pushing people towards subscriptions again. That's part of what they're doing, obviously, right? But that's, to me, Game Pass is a complementary thing to the strategy. It is not a replacement of the hardware. And I think because one of the things you have to keep in mind is if they have Game Pass and they have Play Anywhere, well, it doesn't quite work if you don't have hardware for it, does it? I mean, if we have Steam and all these other services, well, those are technically Play Anywhere too, because I can play those everywhere, or if I have the device for it. So they have to have hardware at the end of the day. Now, if you want to argue, maybe they want to push people to PC, I mean, I guess you can argue that, but I don't know really if there's any evidence specifically for that. But either way, the whole end goal is that you have a device that can play everything and do everything, and they're going to give you the ecosystem or at least the tools, the software to stay in their ecosystem with whatever you get. So again, excuse me, I've been drinking pops, so I'm burping up a storm over here. But part of the so one of the things, so either way, they're keeping you locked into their ecosystem. This is not them saying we're getting out of gaming. I don't think, and I don't want to sound like Paris here, I don't think they buy $70 game, $70 billion into ABK. If you, but yeah, I don't. They didn't.
That was really good. That was almost a 1-to-1. He has that deep.
I've been working on my Paris voice. People like, well, boom. I think that but no, I think you don't spend $70 billion. Shout out to Paris. Don't come and muscle in on this and beat me up. But I don't think you spend that much money, and all this they spend, like you said, boom, even on what's the word I want to use? I don't think you spend all of that, not only for ABK, on Bethesda, on Obsidian, and you don't fund all of this and put all this money into building Game Pass to suddenly abandon it and not continue on. And I don't really see the room for that argument. So I think a lot of what she's saying is from a traditional mindset that is stuck in the past. Honestly, I mean, it's been 20-some years for her, right? Since she's been with Xbox. Yeah, you got more of a traditional mindset, understandably. And I think that's the bigger point. And I think that's the bigger problem for so many still arguing that and have argued for Xbox's death day in and day out, is that they're stuck on traditional, where now Microsoft is future forward. They're not thinking like you anymore. They're not moving that same way. They're not moving like Sony. They're not moving like Nintendo. You know what I mean? And I think that's the bigger problem. It's not, you can see, I think it affects not even just gamers, but people like her who know the business, I think. You know what I mean? So that's my thinking on it. And I'm not saying all this to shade her. I don't know if she has ulterior motives or anything like that. I would just say that she's I don't think she fully thought it all the way out. She said one thing I didn't like either, by the way. I will say this. And this is why I know she was traditional minded. When she was talking about when they used to, she tried to do it a little jab. I peeped it, because she's like, and go back to 20 years ago when they had Oblivion. Now they have the remake for Oblivion, and that's doing really well. And so when they go back to games that they used to make really well, you see how it works out. And it's like, or something to that. I'm kind of paraphrasing.
Well, she said that they don't know how to ship games, and I'm like, well, what happened in the last 6 months? Listen again, no shade, no attacking. It's just conversation that we're having. There were some things that, again, she made some great points, especially about the $70 to $80 game thing, because she made mention that Phil said, about his comment about charging gamers 70, and now, of course, they moved to 80. That's beyond his control. I know that he is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, but of course, he still sits under Satya Nadella as well as Amy Hood, which is the CFO. And they're like, we want more money. So you're going to figure it out.
Absolutely. But she said something that was, how did she word that? When she was talking about Oblivion, she was saying that
about them, having great success with it. And of course, they could just release old games.
Right. And she was saying something, and she threw out a little jab where she said, back when they used to release great games, or something to that nature. I forgot how she worded it.
She said how they used to ship games.
Right.
Know how to ship games more specifically.
Maybe so. Yeah, to that point. I wish I could remember it. I should have wrote it down. But my thinking was, well, they didn't make Oblivion before. That was Bethesda. So why are you throwing that in there at all? And unless she's going to argue, well, they used to make great games like Oblivion. Okay, maybe. But again, that to me points to a traditional argument that she's having in her head. Why aren't they doing this traditional thing like they used to, where they used to be great at? And you've kind of lost the forest for the trees of where they're headed now. You know what I mean? And where they're headed to infinity and beyond. I'm sorry. But no, seriously, I think it's just people are trapped in this traditional loop of what gaming platforms and such have to be. And I think Microsoft is continuously evolving past that. And people don't know quite how to respond to it. So the default is, oh, they're dying, or Xbox is dead, or, that's the thing I think it keeps coming back to because of that.